Some of them. Yeah. So which ones would you say are artistic? The answer doesn't question it, doesn't answer itself. Which ones? So which ones did you see up there? You recognize the titles?
Django Unchained, Life of Pi.
Django Unchained, Life of Pi. Yep.
Books of the Wallflower.
Yep.
Is it New James? No, not New James Bond. New James Bond, yeah. The Hong Kong one.
The Macau one. Yeah.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom. Yeah. So which one of these are artistic?
Isn't that
Do
like,
they all look the same?
isn't that very like subjective thing to say?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, like regardless of how commercial we think a film is, it still has some sort of artistic dimension, which contributes to the vision of the film.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So you could say that they all are artistic. Yeah. And so, which one of these include art direction? We'll come back to the second question. So which one of these include art direction? Is it related to your answer? The answer is all of them. Yeah, exactly right. You can't have a film without having art direction in it. And so who's responsible for the way that these look? Whose job is it to make them not just look good, but make them look in a specific way, one way or another, because they certainly don't look the same. Moonrise Kingdom, for sure, was very different than, like, Skyfall. It was very different than Batman. Yeah. So who's responsible for the way that they look? The director is one. The director is one.
Editor.
The editor, yeah. Art director for sure.
Set design.
Set design, costumes, the writers. The writers do have a say, which some people don't think that they do, but the writers do have a say. Maybe it's not quite as at the end, but they, the tone. Basically, they set the tone, and from the tone, the art director gets the idea, the director gets the idea, and so on and so on. So when the director meets with the art director, what do you think that they talk about?
In general, how they want something to look. Like, for example, I was just looking at Skyfall and how it's like very saturated a lot of the times, and also like there's, I don't know, and you can contrast that with something like that camping movie in the beginning. That
Moonrise Kingdom.
Oh, is that Moonrise Kingdom? Like that one is obviously totally different, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like it looks like a child's film.
Yeah.
They probably discuss stuff like that.
So yeah, they definitely did discuss it. Since you brought up Moonrise Kingdom, how many of you have seen the director's previous movies? So the director of Moonrise Kingdom his name is Wes Anderson. So if you've seen Darjeeling Limited or Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, I watched that.
Okay. So did they look kind of similar? Royal Tenenbaums? Yeah. And so we did another one called Rushmore, which is even better. And they have a similar look. They have a very similar look. And so, but then you look at the director of Skyfall, he has kind of a look, but it's not nearly as unique. And his films change in the way they look from the ones that they do. So Sam Mendes is the director of Skyfall, and so he did a film called American Beauty. It was nowhere near an action film. No, there's no way in the world you would call it an action film. It's a drama, a family drama, and talking about the American dream and things like that and how it's fallen. So it's a totally different look as well. There's no explosions in American Beauty. So then this again brings back the idea of who's responsible for the way that it looks. So the answer is yes, everybody, and it also depends on each person. So some directors are more influential than others. So a guy like Wes Anderson is almost the art director himself, even though he does hire somebody, but he's so meticulous in the details that he does. So he picks the props, he knows what color he wants the props to be, things like that. So when the director meets with the art director, it's not general. It's not a general conversation. They have a very specific conversation about the specific things that they want. So a lot of it is the colors, the looks, the shapes, the lines. Do they want things to be very symmetrical? Do they want them to be asymmetrical? Do they want them to have bright colors, subdued colors? Does he want them to have a lot of contrast? And so also another thing that an art director does is collect all of the props, all of the costumes, things like that, and then submit them to the director for approval. So the director doesn't necessarily come up with the way that everything looks specifically, generally he does. But so then he sends people out and they get for him or her, and then they approve it. They either say yes or no, the color's wrong, the color, I wanted a little bit of shade, instead of pink, I want it to be salmon. It's a difference in that, but still. So that's what happens, right? So when we look at the hierarchy in terms of the way a film set is set out, so who's on top? Director on set.
Producer.
So if we're not, yeah, right. So if we're talking about overall, yes, it's the producer.
The money maker.
Yeah. So he's the guy
God.
that finds the money. So it could be, we could say above, definitely above the producer is the executive producer. All right. So that would be the head of the studio, or the person who finds the money, so on. They don't, ideally they wouldn't have anything to do with the creative part, but many times they're on the one that has the money, so you're going to change this. That happens too much, from my perspective. But, and then so we have the producer. So the producer, what is the producer's job? If this person's found the money, what is this person's job? Just to sit at the desk and say, no, change that. So if the executive producer finds the money, who's the person that spends the money? The director will spend it, but the producer tells him, yeah, so the budget, exactly right. And so also there are under producers, so assistant producers, first assistant, things like that. And they're the ones that will do the details of the budget and also logistics. So the director isn't responsible for booking the location. The producer will do that, and the assistant director and so on. So under the producer, we have kind of two different divisions. Person is, so anybody heard of the unit production manager, or the UPM? Okay. So unit production manager, so they are basically the right-hand man to the producer, and they're the ones really doing the budgeting. So the producer is really kind of sitting there going, the budget's too high, so let me go get some coffee. But the unit production manager is the one who really is kind of controlling all of the budgeting things, and then the director will handle the creative side, right? So how about under the director? Who's under the director? You would think so, but actually, the assistant director is under So you would think that because the name is misleading. So the assistant director, the path for the career of the assistant director is not to become a director. They're also handling the budget. They're handling mainly the scheduling. So the actors coming in, the locations, when we're handling all that kind of things. And then on set, they're the ones who are keeping them on schedule. So always keeping track of the time, talking to the director. So in that sense, they are the assistant to the director because they have close contact daily, minute by minute with the director. But the assistant director is mainly time, getting people there, back and forth. So if the only reason I'm bringing this up is because sometimes people will think that the path to director is also assistant director. But the final destination of an assistant director, unless they want to say that, is a producer. So they work their way up from a production assistant, they're going around getting coffee, and talking with the actors, things like that, getting them there on time, working their way up from PA, and then second assistant director, then first assistant director, then assistant director, and then production manager. Okay, so then let's go back over to the director. So who's below the director? Yep, you got it. The DP or DOP, depending on country you're in. So that would be let's say the whole photography department. Who else? Somebody said it earlier. What's the main thing we're talking about?
Artistic director.
Yep, you got it. Good. So, art director. Alright, then so who is under the art director? What are the different departments, can you imagine?
Costume.
Yep, got it. Good. Costume. Yep. Set. Those are the big ones. So when I want this specific mark, I don't want this prop. Yeah. Props. Okay. So that sets the tone. So the art director is in charge of all three of these areas. So when we talk about who affects the way a film looks, certainly the art director has a big piece. And when we talk about the hierarchy, then the art director, like I said, will hear stuff through the director. But depending on the director, many of them will just go with what the art director does because I mean they're pretty well paid themselves and they're pretty well responsible themselves. And then the director will work more with the actors or work more with the camera. All right, so that brings us to another question. So what is the role of the director? What is the director responsible for? Let's start with that question. What is the director responsible for? Visualizing the script. Yep. Visualizing the script. Excellent. That kind of covers a lot.
Directing the actors.
Directing the actors, yeah. Yep, that's very good. And so we said he's also responsible for the way that it looks, too. So that includes basically everything. So also, he does have something to do with the photography as well. So some directors, just like some directors let the art director do their thing, some directors let the cinematographer, the DOP, do their thing. So, but whereas others come from very strong camera backgrounds. So Stanley Kubrick, have you guys heard of Stanley Kubrick, the director? He did The Shining, he did Clockwork Orange, 2001. So he comes from a photographic background. So he became very involved with the camera department. Whereas a director like Sam Mendes, who did Skyfall comes from theater background, not much of a camera background, but theater. He was part of the London theater. So what do you think his area of focus is? The actors, yeah, exactly right. So when you watch a film and the acting is terrible, many times people blame the actors. But is this 100% correct? No. It's about 50-50. It's the director's job to take a terrible actor and get something usable out of them. Or take a great actor and make them greater, or take a great actor and let them do their thing. It really kind of depends again. But you can't blame an actor for their bad acting all the time. They're responsible, but also the script writer is responsible and the director is responsible as well. Because then maybe they may have been given terrible lines to begin with.
And it says, when you're directing, what type of approach do you take in terms of how it's you let the art director take?
Good question. I let the art director have quite a bit of freedom. Because the main reason why is because we've had meetings ahead of time, and I've explained everything. I've explained what I wanted, and I see it as collaboration. So there's some directors that want to control every little thing, but I see it more as this person is a professional in art, and they have a background in graphic design and background in color design, things like that I don't have as strong in. And so I let them do what they do their job, basically. And then when it comes to cinematography, I come from a camera background myself, so when I first started out, and I would say even for like the first 7 years, I really did a lot of work with the camera, from telling them where to go, what lens, things like this, and exactly how to do it. And I didn't give the DOP that much freedom. But these days, I'm working with a cinematographer that I really like, and we've worked together for a bit. So I know that I can trust him. And again, he specializes in that. So that allows me to focus on the actors. So they're very good.
I have a question about, for most of your projects, who do you get to choose sometimes who the art director and the DOP that you work with, or usually is that the producer just assigning it?
It depends.
Yeah.
So sometimes if it's a project that I've come up with myself, then I get to choose everybody. If the producer has come to me, then sometimes, almost all, it depends on the level. If it's a very expensive thing, then many times they'll already have. But they will ask if I have a preference. But then a little bit lower budget, then I get to choose. Right? Okay. So going on from what a film director does brings us to this next question. So what is mise en scène? Any idea? Anybody take French here?
Use of objects in a scene to create meaning.
Part of it? Yep. Have you guys studied mise en scène? Okay. So why the silence?
Some of them just did a presentation on it.
Oh, really? All right. Terrific. So so let's go deeper then. What does mise en scène have to do with art direction?
Everything.
Yeah, exactly right. Everything. Yep. So mise en scène would include everything that is not spoken. So of course the art director will have a lot to do with that. All right. So that answers that question. So everything. Art direction has everything to do with mise en scène. So let's take a look at some more clips, and let's talk about afterwards some of the artistic things going on. So here we have a shot. So we'll take a look at a clip, but also I want to show a shot from the life of life. So what can you say artistically about this shot? What What kind of ideas is the art, is this shot going for?
Kind of out of worldly.
Out of world? Yes. How do you get that?
Just because I think even the concept of this movie was a little bit in that direction, because having like a tiger interact with the community in such a way is kind of like, I know it wasn't original because it came from the book, but it was still a very unique idea.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And even the way that the editing was done, it was kind of like everything was surreal.
Yeah. Yep. Part of that was a CGI as well. Yeah.
I think that was part of it.
Yep. So what is going on graphically? Hmm? Corners?
Colour.
Oh, colors. Yeah.
Corners.
Yeah. Colors. Yes. I thought we said corners because that is another thing that's going on. So we have lines starting from here. We have another line going through, and then another line with the boat coming in, converging, and going diagonal. So if this were, if Wes Anderson, the guy that did Sunrise Kingdom, did it, it would be square. There would not be going through diagonals. Oh, okay. So here's behind the
that's
scenes.
so sad.
Yeah. So who do you think is responsible for all of the blue area?
The special
Who's
effects.
responsible and who does it? Those are the
Special
two
effects.
questions. Special effects
Crew.
is responsible or does?
Does.
Does, right?
Responsible is editing.
Set designer, editing is part of it, and director, yeah. So when you talk about responsibility, the responsibility goes beyond who actually does it. So again, all of the effects directors, so anytime you have effects, you talk about the hierarchy, it just gets huge when you have effects because they're the artists that do it, and then that person approves it, da 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 da, and it goes just on and on and on. Yeah, it is sad, to have that. So can you imagine being that actor and having such a cold environment into acting?
It's hard to visualize what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, exactly right. There's another blue screen thing that I didn't include, but a picture where they had the actor in the boat. There's a close-up, and so it's just of his lap, and the tiger was supposed to be, or maybe the zebra was supposed to be on his lap, but because it was CGI, they just had this blue stuffed animal on his lap. So can you imagine trying to act with that?
Or like people acting as monkeys, you know?
Say it again, what?
Like for Planet of the Apes, I think the people were given like these white things to track their bodies.
Right,
And
yeah.
pretend they're the monkey.
Yeah.
That was really awkward.
Yeah. To get past the ping pong balls on everybody's clothes. Yeah. All right. Okay. So we have another one. So In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai. So has anybody seen this? If you
I
haven't.
showed them a clip with like the trailer of it.
Okay,
Because we
all
were
right.
looking at Wong Kar-wai.
Okay, we're gonna take another.
The whole.
Right. So this is in the middle of the film. So take a look at the set, the costumes. Immediately, what can you take from it? When does it look like it took place? 50s, early 60s? Exactly right.
All of that lunchbox.
That hair.
He's back.
famous scenes, but actually you could pick, I was trying to pick a scene for this, you could pick any scene, and it would have been great to show the artistic direction. This is just amazing and consistent. It's okay. We'll move on.
Yeah,
So-
we were looking at that scene at the very end where he was looking through
The window?
through that like little hole in the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that scene was also.
The red one, the really, really red one.
Ah, okay, okay, good. So when we were looking at that, what kinds of things did you see artistically? Mm-hmm. What about it? And so what is that communicating? Yep.
But at the same time, I felt like there were like a few scenes where they're in exactly the same positions. And they're doing the exact same things.
Say it again louder.
Like they were in the exact same positions. Like the framing was so that they're both on this side and then just looking at a distance. And then again, they're just thinking to themselves or something like that. And kind of like, I'm not sure if this is before the affair or after, but it seems like it's like real lonely.
Mm.
And the rain also adds to
Yeah,
that
right,
effect.
adds to that, yep, so that helps communicate that. So we have an interesting thing there. So clearly we were talking about art design, so in the set, you know, how do you think that they came up with the set of the office? You said it looks like 50s. How did they come up with that?
Maybe old photographs.
Exactly right, yeah, old photographs, so those are called reference. So reference shots, and that would be something that I would give to the art director when I'm talking to them about what kind of look I'm looking for. So reference shots. That's a great way to communicate, and we'll talk about communication in just a minute. So then they'll come back with samples, things like that. So do you need something like this, or maybe drawing? Do you need something like that based on the references? Right. All right. So let's take a look at these stills from In the Mood for Love. What about this? Pretty simple. It looks pretty simple, but what's going on? Why did the art director choose this? Why did the director choose this?
Everything seems to be converging on the girl.
Exactly right. Yep. Why is everything converging on the girl? What does he want to communicate? What is the art director? What does she want to communicate with that? Why converge on her? As part of her character? Yeah. It helps us identify, and we always identify her as the main subject, but there's always things going on to build the actor or the actress up. So we also have red and greenish white. We have red along here, red along there. Why put her in a red dress? That's a good question. Why not put her in a green dress? Contrast. Excellent. Yeah, so he said she's melting into the environment. So she's becoming more of what this place is about. Yeah, really good, really good. And you could also talk about when we see her face, the lightness of her face, that's also a great contrast. And she's certainly not bad looking. So you're going to, it emphasizes that part about Mac. All right, so let's take a look at one more. So here we have Tony. What's going on here artistically? Shadow, yeah. 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 With that light. So this brings up a great question. So what does the artistic director have to do with this? Was this found?
Probably have to add that to the wall.
Probably applied, yeah, applied and aged to the wall, even though it looks like it's found, because we see them all around Hong Kong. Maybe I have to see if there's any kind of date or any kind of thing that puts a specific date. But yeah, so probably the wall might have already existed, but the poster, the art director does that. That's part of the art director's job, to make us forget that we're watching a film, to put us into the environment, completely make us forget, and make it less sterile. When you construct a set, the danger is that it feels sterile and it doesn't feel real. So there are things like this. So this for sure was location, but adding things like the posters add a lot. There's probably already the age of the paint, but something like that was added. And so along with his hairstyle, his suit, look great. All right. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so for getting into film noir, so The Third Man. Anybody familiar with The Third Man? Okay, so it's considered one of the quintessential film noir films. So it starred Orson Welles, and it was excellently directed by Carol Reed. So here we have clearly a nice shot here. What's going on in the shot? What do you get immediately from it?
Confusion. He's calling out of some sort of tunnel.
Do you think he's calm? No way. Yeah. Immediately you know that there's something frantic going on. Yeah. So why didn't they just have a shot of him sitting in front of the ocean, looking out on the ocean? What's going on in my life? Why have the Ferris wheels and the flying chairs? Yeah, it looks better, but why?
Maybe it's symbolic of all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he like psychotic or something?
He's trying to figure something out. He's run into an old friend that he thought had been dead for a few years, and the friend is very mysterious. Yeah. So yeah, you can kind of see these are like kind of like the representation of like the clock gears going on in his mind with these spinning around. So let's take a look at a clip of The Third Man. And pay attention to the lines in here. Pay attention to the framing and lines.
What kind of a spy do you think you are, Satchel Putt? What are you tailing me for? Cat got your tongue? Come on out. Come out, whoever you are.
What kind of lines are going on?
Step out in the light. Let's have a look at it. Who's your boss?
Forgive me.
Oh my god.
Did we see anybody straight on? Especially that last shot, these shots. Look at this. Yeah, right. So what does that communicate? Chaos. Something that's not quite right. So this is where, would this be included necessarily in the art direction department? No. Camera department, exactly right. So, pardon? Straight now, because things have kind of calmed down a bit. All right, so this brings up the next part.
Some guy said the tripod wrong.
Right.
They're like, oh crap, we filmed this demolished.
It's too late now.
They didn't, right, they didn't bother to correct it then. It's okay.
It's all fair.
Right, so the reason that that's in there is because it talks about communication between all of the departments. So even though you might be having a meeting with the art director talking about what you want, the DOP is going to be in on that conversation as well. So if the director is talking about how she might want things to look off, continually off, it's kind of hard to do that in Vienna when it's already set up, and they want it to be more or less realistic. So then a way to make things off is the DOP is on that conversation, and so they'll talk about maybe making the camera canted or Dutched, whatever country you're in is called something different. And then so with the lines, but that doesn't mean that the art director was doing nothing. The art director was doing quite a bit. So there's a film called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari that was made in 1920. And so it's a representative of a genre or a period called German Expressionism. Very good. Very nice. Okay. So do you see some similarities between this shot of the hallway and the third man?
Things tilted.
Yeah. Yep. Things are pointed. Things are off kilter. Yep. Here's an illustration of the climactical scene in Dr. Caligari. So what's going on with the buildings here? They're all off. Why?
Oh.
They're all off. Why? Why are they off?
I think this movie was about like some psychotic doctor that could predict the
Future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's kind of like the fact that he was psychotic, and I don't know, like you said, this is a climactic scene, so
It's a reflection of the mind,
yeah,
of the
his
state.
mind,
Yeah, that's what German expression was all about, was expressing what was going on in the mind of the subject. So if they were off, then their reality was going to be off, and what we see is off. They took that directly into the third man. And so you'll see, there's so many films, especially these days, you can trace back what their influences were. So art directors are aware of that. They're very well versed in what films have done. So an art director can draw from what they know, draw from the past to help the art direction in a film. And there's no shame in it at all. Right? So independent filmmaker's application for art direction. So think about the art department as actually the communication department. So in several different ways, the art department allows internally communication to happen between all of the crew. So when the director is trying to communicate an idea to the DOP, the art direction can help. Because if you can't find correct reference material, art department can create that reference for the DOP. As they say, a picture tells us 1,000 words. And so if that saves an hour-long conversation just to show a photograph, that saves money, that saves time. And also, you can talk about storyboards. Not only does the director look at the storyboards, not only does the DOP look at the storyboards, but every single person of the crew look at storyboards to know what they're shooting. Who creates those storyboards? The art department. So again, they're getting back to communication. They're communicating with the entire crew to make sure things go quickly. and that everybody understands what they're shooting. So that's another reason, aside from storyboards, communicating what is going to be going on and allowing the director to work out what's going on in their head. It allows them to communicate, right? Looks like battery is dead. So I could get through the whole thing. All right, so also we had the storyboards there. So are you guys familiar with storyboards? Have you made storyboards? Okay, great. All right, so I'll wrap it up. And one thing before questions, I want to have you guys use SketchUp. So when you want to make something, it's really easy. You can download Google SketchUp. Just do a search, Google SketchUp. It allows you to create 3D models of anything. So it can be, it doesn't have to be for a film, but it's great for film. It can be anything you want to make a 3D model of. And so it's SketchUp, like ketchup with an S at the beginning. And so you can build your set that way. That's an easy way that you guys can bring your artistic vision into the film that you're working on. Right? And it's really easy. Okay? So any questions?
How would you say that, like, we talked about the set design, a lot of the times it's bare. How would you say that?
Or sterile.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you do films, how would you say that you make that less of a problem?
Less sterile. Things like we saw with in the Mood for Love. So things, aging things. Sometimes when a set is freshly constructed, that's the problem because it's too well painted. That you don't have little pieces of white over there where the chair has hit the wall. So you want people to go in there and physically do that themselves. So you can also take off the shine. Sometimes things are too shiny, and you take off the shine from that. Throw some dirt in. Seriously, yeah. And also the lighting has something to do with it too. You can use lights. So when a light is directly perpendicular to the surface, it's going to make everything look flat. So as you guys have noticed, anytime you have a light that's going along a wall, you get to see just how uneven that wall is. So that's another way to do it, is to highlight the natural unevenness of construction. So age things. Also another thing is either add shine or take away shine. So add shine if it's humid. If it's been rainy, you have to add water to the set. If it's been rainy, you need to add water to the costumes. Another way, this not necessarily set related, but it still is costume related and makeup related, is many times an actor, after they've been running, the makeup person will still put powder on their face, but then why? Because you need them to be sweaty. So keep an eye on when you want shine, when you don't want shine. So the easy way to add water is just with a spray bottle. You can add it, or another way is just Vaseline. Put Vaseline and they'll stay shiny for a long time. So there was actually a student that did a film here, and he had a war scene where a guy was injured and he was being tended to by the main character who was a medic, and the guy was in agonizing pain. The actor was going crazy, and so I said to the student, I was like, why is his face dry? He'd be sweating like crazy no matter what in that place. There's no air conditioning. They're on the battlefield. And then also his stomach is halfway open. So he's like, yeah. That's something you can't go back and replace. You can't do that in post. So that's one way. So make things dirtier, age them. That's a good way. Think about the lighting. The lighting can't be too perfect if you want something to look old. Don't be afraid to have people partly in shadow. Sometimes some people think they have to be always nice
have to do a production, but
Yep.
there's no budget really for them. So
That's fine.
it's kind of like a low budget. Are there any
Zero budget.
tips or
No
techniques?
budget.
No budget.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you a budget. Are there any tips or techniques that you had in the past when you've worked on low budget films that you could?
Yeah, so obviously if you're going to be shooting on location, you don't have the money to construct a set, but that's good because it's already going to be looking lived in, and you're not going to have the problem of it looking too fake. So that's quite nice. One definite tip is go to wherever you're shooting way ahead of time, so that you know what it looks like. Don't arrive there and let the lighting guy try to figure out what's going on. Don't let the director try to figure out what shots they're going to do. So if you haven't, you can even include it in the script writing process. If you know you have a great location, then go ahead and have the writer go to that location and write the different elements of that location into it. So for example, there may be some kind of pipe coming out of the wall that wouldn't have been written in, but if the writer sees it, they can include that pipe as something significant. And then also when you're visiting the location, take a panoramic shot of it. So everybody's iPhone has panorama. So take that and have it printed out so everybody can access it. Because that's going to allow you to answer many questions that you may not have thought about when you first arrive. So one of those things is also like power outlets. Where are the power outlets in the room? The electrician, the lighting guy, can see right away what that is. Measure the room. Measure all of the sets, and you can put it into SketchUp with measurements, so you know the distance between that and the distance between this. Because sometimes you may not, I'm going to have a tracking shot, but you don't have room. So you need to know that ahead of time. So when you don't have budget, the main overall tip is preparation ahead of time. That's one of the biggest things. And also, you need to have fun because nobody's getting paid on it. So that means they need to be enthusiastic about coming to this because it is a collaboration. One of the biggest problems that you have with a low budget or a no budget thing is motivation from the rest of the people. Because you'll have somebody who shows up late because there's no motivation for them to come. It's not okay. You have people that say, "Oh, actually, I need to leave at 6." What? Well, you can't. You need to. So that's something you keep in mind. And also keep respect for the director. No matter if you disagree totally with what the director is doing, you can't show it because then things start to fall apart. So you need to listen to the director at all times and listen to what the director is saying. Because if she loses the respect of the crew, then everything starts getting harder and harder. Even if you don't like the person, then fake it. Anything else? One last thing for low budget is don't try to, you want to have as high production quality as you can, but you can also use the fact that it's low budget to your advantage. So don't try to have huge productions, that has like 15, 20 people in it, because that's impossible to coordinate. Don't try to have gorgeously lit things. Do your best, but especially if you're doing something like a film noir, which has one light many of the times, just one. That's one way to keep the cost low and keep the setup simple and to keep you moving along. You have one light, but it needs to fit the genre. So if you have a comedy, for example, you can't do one light. Right. So think about that. Always think smaller. Don't get too crazy ambitious. That's one of the biggest things. Okay? All right, well, if there's no more questions, then thank you very much. I think Katie's going to show you around.
Yeah. Thanks, Seth. It was really great. Sorry it's only short, that's all we've got time for, but hopefully, that gave you an insight into what it's like. Yeah, so Seth is a real life director, in case you're wondering. And all of our teachers at the school are teachers alongside doing what they teach in the real world. So they're involved in the industry in Hong Kong and internationally and have a lot of experience from the US. Right? We have, I'll just tell you a little bit about what we do here. I don't want to bore you. So we have diploma and certificate programs in filmmaking and acting. It's really our speciality is the filmmaking side of it. We have a lot of equipment which I'll show you, and it's all the latest equipment that we can get, for our students, and you're able to use it whenever you're in school. So if you're in the class in the editing suite for an afternoon, you think, I want to do this project, okay, you can take out that equipment and use it. We have great mentors. Seth is one of many. I have some more information if you'd like to take it, and that tells you a bit more. So Seth teaches directing in class film. We have another cinematographer who teaches cinematography in that side of it. So everyone who teaches a class is a specialist in that area. So it's great because, like you saw here with Seth, he can give you, a real insight into what it's actually like. It's not about theory. We're not about that. We're about getting involved, playing around, exploring. It's a creative school. So that's what we're really about. That gives you a little bit of information. If you would like some more, if you'd like to find out more, what we do is we run open house events every 3 weeks. So we'll invite one of our mentors, maybe Seth, someone else, to give a short talk like we did tonight about a specific topic, maybe directing, screenwriting, and then you can just have a chance to ask some questions if you're interested to our admissions team, and they can provide you some more information. So what I'll do is I'm going to give you these feedback forms. I don't know if you just mind filling these out really quickly. And on the bottom of here,